Hey guys, welcome to the final episode of the Major Region Rundown, and today we're going to be going to the LCK with special guest Chronicler, who's a caster and analyst from the LCK. These videos serve as information pieces, so you're a little bit more informed on these LCK teams heading into the World Championship. And as a quick note, I will be co-streaming all of Worlds this year on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/casual, so if you want to tune in live and join me and watch the games alongside me, you can definitely do that. Anyway, let's get straight into it. I hope you enjoy the video. Starting with the LCK Summer Champions and the first seed, we have Hamolife Esports. Doran in the top lane, Peanut in the jungle, World Champion Zeka in the mid lane, another World Champion at AD carry, Viper, and Delight as their support. Hamolife Esports last participated in Worlds 2021 with a very different roster back then, with Chovy and Deft. After missing out on Worlds 2023, Hamolife decided to build around their World Championship carries, Zeka and Viper, adding in Doran, Peanut and Delight from the domestically dominant Gen G, forming a super team. The team has looked solid throughout the year. In spring, they finished the regular season in third with a 15-3 record, and they beat T1 in the second round of playoffs, but they lost to Gen G and T1 in the rematch. In summer, they took advantage of the slump in T1 to solidify themselves as the second best team in Korea, and they proved it in the playoffs by beating the 2023 World Champions twice. Going into the finals, everyone expected them to lose, as Gen G has had their number consistently. Not only have they defeated them in the 6 encounters of 2024, Hamolife Esports as an organization was also on a 19 consecutive losing streak against Gen G. Alongside the fact that Chovy actually had a 16-1 win score against Zeka, that one win from Zeka being the World 2022 semi-finals. But they did the impossible and toppled a seemingly unbeatable Gen G with super clutch performances in what was a very close best-of-5 series, effectively ending the Golden Road. Zeka, who was pretty disappointing and inconsistent throughout 2023, and even in some moments in spring this year, has had an unbelievable summer and playoffs. He has leveled up and is in similar form to his World 2022 performances. He also won the Finals MVP. Viper had a little bit of a disappointing end to the regular season, but turned it around instantly for playoffs and became the player we know and love. And I definitely think he's in the debate for best AD carry in the world. Delight is one of the best engaged supports in the world. His Rakan is for sure his signature pick, and we'll see if the meta favors him going into Worlds. Peanut was the LCK Playoffs MVP for me, however. Super high level and consistent performances across the board, basically out-jungling everyone. You might remember his and Doran's performances at Worlds last year, not being great when Gen G failed to meet expectations after a 3-0 Swiss stage. So for fans, there might be a bit of an expectation or possibility of those two players quote-unquote choking, or just not matching their domestic level. Overall, I'd say this team is definitely a contender to win the championship. It'll be interesting to see if they can match the higher expectations that are placed on them now that they're Korea's first seed. Next, we have the LCK second seed, Gen G. In the top lane, we have Keen. In the jungle, we have 2021 World Champion Canyon. In the mid lane, we have Chovy. At AD carry, we have Pays. And at support, we have Lehens. Gen G in 2023 had a pretty dominant domestic year, winning both LCK titles, but failed to show up internationally, finishing 4th at MSI and not going beyond the quarterfinals at Worlds. The early elimination against BLG led to the team restructuring the roster and only keeping Chovy and Pays, bringing in Canyon from Damwon, Keen and Lehens from KT to form somewhat of a super team as well. This new Gen G went on to break regular season records in the LCK and almost managed an undefeated summer season if it weren't for their loss against KT right at the end of the season, which was their first LCK regular season loss since, well, you guessed it, their loss to KT in spring as well. Despite not getting a perfect season, they registered the highest map win percentage in summer, winning 92% of their games. They won LCK Spring, they won MSI, and it seemed like they were on track to win it all. But the upset in the summer finals against HLE shocked the world. For me, Canyon had a very disappointing finals performance. I feel like he got out-jungled by Peanut in most of those games. I wasn't too impressed with the Skarner pick, although we may see it at Worlds. Usually when I think of Canyon, I think of this creative, innovative style, whether it's picks or map play or using vision against the enemy. We didn't really see too much of Canyon in the finals. I do still think that coming into Worlds this year, he will be one of the best junglers of the tournament, with his signature pick of course being Nidalee, but we'll have to see if the meta allows it. Chovy for me is also the best mid laner in the world. I think that there is this narrative that he got gapped in the finals by Zeka. I don't think that's too fair. I definitely think there was a game or two here or there where Chovy did get gapped, but I don't think the series was decided by mid lane. I think Game 4 was the real struggle, and in Game 5 there wasn't much he could do. He's a player that definitely perfected the summer mid meta though. AD carries galore. He picked everything from Corki to Draven mid. Chovy really pushed the AD carry mid meta, I think. Pays was also insanely good throughout the summer regular season and playoffs, but he then had a very disappointing finals with poor positioning in teamfights, namely in Game 1 and 5. From ahead, he's an incredible AD carry, but can struggle to find space to perform when the team is behind. He probably was the best Ziggs in the LCK, and Gen.G was the best team at using Ziggs, but that's also a bit nerfed and teams were target banning him. Despite this loss in the finals, in my opinion, they're still the best LCK team going into Worlds. I don't think a single best of 5 changes what they've done throughout the rest of the year, and I still consider them the favorites if they were to play up against Hammerlife. This team's macro is uncontested. Even when they are behind, they win through good decision making and smart map movements, and while we don't see it directly, a lot of this stems from Lehens in the communication calling for these things. They were also the team that redefined and perfected the meta during summer. It really felt like they were 2 steps ahead of everyone, like we talked about with the 80 min picks and the Ziggs. I think the patch change will shift things up enough that they won't be too favored when it comes to the meta. Things will be way too different, and this perfected and refined style that they have won't benefit them as much. But I would love to see Chovy get a Worlds trophy. It would be a shame of a player of his caliber to never see that trophy hoisted. As the LCK's third seed, we have D plus Kia. In the top lane, we have world champion Kingen. In the jungle, we have rookie Lucid. At mid lane, we have world champion Showmaker. At AD carry, we have Aiming. And at support, we have Moham. D plus Kia was at last year's Worlds, where they were the only non-Korean or Chinese team to not make it out of the Swiss stage, losing their qualification match to KT Rolster. This led to a huge restructuring of the roster, with only Showmaker and Kellen remaining. Canyon left to Gen.G, ending the long-standing Canyon-Showmaker duo that had played together for 5 years, and D+ promoted rookie jungler Lucid, who had been smashing it in the LCK challenger scene, and the team brought over world champion Kingen from Hammerlife and signed Aiming from KT. Towards the end of the regular season, the team benched Kellen and brought in Moham, who's already competed in 2022 and 2023 under KDF, and was looking incredible on DK's challenger team in spring. The team needed a more decisive engager. Last year they had more or less the same problem and tried bringing up Bible, but that ended up not planning out. Moham, however, seems to have helped fix a lot of what DK needed from the support position. This team has definitely improved from spring to summer, but for most of the year just looked like the 4th best LCK team. In spring they were 5th with a 9-9 record and then got eliminated by T1. Despite improvements in summer with a 3rd place finish in the regular season, the story repeated itself in playoffs as T1 eliminated them again. Going into the regional qualifier for Worlds, they finally overcame T1 in a 5-game series to qualify for Worlds over them. Showmaker struggled a lot with the AD carry meta, however, and his champion pool reflected that, with Tristana being the only pick that he looked comfortable on. The Worlds meta shift might be a huge boon for him and Damwon. On the other hand, the player to watch was definitely Aiming. DK currently lives and dies with his performances with Showmaker struggles, and he's definitely one of the best AD carries at the tournament. Kingen has also looked extremely solid and looks to be in form coming into Worlds. I think this team should be expected to make it past Swiss stage this time. If the meta favors them, they could potentially upset some favorites, but it'll all depend on how Showmaker's form is coming into the tournament. And finally, as Korea's 4th seed, we have reigning world champions T1. In the top lane, we have Zeus. In the jungle, we have Owner. At mid lane, we have, of course, Faker, AD carry Gomyushi, and Keria as support, the 5 world champions from last year. They also have Reckless as a substitute. Yay, go Reckless. This is the 3rd consecutive World Championship that we'll see this roster compete at together. However, while they are the defending champions, they definitely struggled to get here. They were 2nd place in LCK Spring, where they pushed Gen.G to 5 maps, and then were also top 3 at MSI following a 5-game series loss to BLG. But after that, things just kinda went downhill for T1. There was some hope in them bouncing back after they won the EWC, beating both BLG and Top Esports, but LCK Summer was rough, and the team hovered at around 5th and 4th for the whole season. In the playoffs, they convincingly beat KT and D+, but they were not close to the top 2 teams. Going into the regional finals, they lost to D+, who they had just eliminated from playoffs just 2 weeks earlier, and questions started to arise as to whether this team will even qualify to the World Championship. They had their final chance against KT, where they qualified for the World Championship by beating them in a nail-biter 5-game series. They were 1 game away from not being at this Worlds. Faker had a great individual lane phase and performance in spring, but has looked pretty mediocre in summer. The other players where performances really dipped have been Owner and Keria. Zeus and Gomyushi, on the other hand, have been pretty solid. Zeus still has some flaws and tends to get caught a lot, but he is still one of the best top laners at this tournament. Gomyushi is just a massive rock for T1. He is their most stable and reliable player at the moment. Some of this roster struggles could maybe be attributed to what fans think is T1's insanely rigorous schedule for the past couple of years. The team's never really had a break in their eyes. Not only has this roster qualified for every single major international event in the last 3 years, they've also participated in off-season tournaments, And all of this together with shooting content, fan meets and other activities has led them to have very little downtime. It's hard to know what to expect from T1 as a 4th seed coming into Worlds. They have always seemed to show up at international events, and Faker has never failed to make top 4 in his 7 Worlds appearances, but this definitely is the weakest version of this T1 roster that we've seen heading into the World Championship. But the big meta shifts might be exactly what this team needed to perform once again. On paper, I expect this team to make it past Swiss and to top 8 given their level of play. Anything beyond that would be a huge success. Now I'm going to pass it over to Chronicler for his expertise on these teams.
Hey Kadriel, thank you so much. Really appreciate being here. I always love talking about our LCK teams. So gonna quickly run you guys through the main story points I think are really cool coming into the World Championship and how I feel about the LCK teams thus far. For starters, talk a little bit about the region as a whole. I think that there is a very clear gap, which anyone that's watched the LCK will be able to tell you as well, between the top 2, which is Gen.G and Hanwha Life, and then DK and T1 respectively. Now, a lot of this will take into account that I think the teams will look very different once Worlds rolls around. We've seen this countless times again for, I think, almost every LCK seed. They usually get their shit together as World actually comes around, but going into the tournament, I think it's good to note that Gen.G and Hanwha Life look on a completely different level. I think these two teams are unmatched within the LCK and should only be matched by teams like BLG and TES worldwide. And they are both very versatile in the types of style that they play, in how they pivot in drafts. I think Hanwha Life in particular in the finals had a really large amount of drafts that ended up working out for them well, and they really worked on their champion pools, which ended up, I think, being a big reason as to why they got the huge upset over Gen.G. The main storyline for Hanwha is definitely that tagline for Worlds is make them believe, right? And I don't know how much stock you can put into that, but for Hanwha there are a lot of players on this team that don't have any faith, I think, from the community at large, and I think that's valid as an LCK caster that had to watch Peanut and Doran last year at Worlds. But that is now offset by the fact that you have Zeka and Viper, obviously two very decorated players that have really been able to keep it together internationally. So for Gen.G, for them it's redemption in 2 ways. Obviously losing Summer means that the Golden Road is dead. My main thing though is that I imagine if Gen.G is able to win Worlds, which I think they should still be one of the heavy favorites, they would take that and not completing the Golden Road over the other way around, because while this team domestically has been supremely dominant, they have really struggled. I think it's been for various reasons. My main worry for Gen.G is how the meta shift is going to influence them. I do think that Chovy is really fine in terms of meta. I'm not worried about Keen either, but I do think that particularly the bot lane has really fluctuated in form, and Canyon definitely looks very different when he's playing on junglers that reward his playstyle, which is very high resources, right? He needs a lot of time to farm up, and teams that punish that are really able to, I think, put Gen.G in a tough position. So we'll have to see if they can kind of bounce back from what was a really big upset. Again, no one except for Orcs expected them to do it. But I do think that Gen.G are still considered one of the clear favorites, because both them and Hanwha Life feel like they are extremely stable teams that have an incredible amount of depth. Then on the flip side, we get to the more fun teams, which are DK and T1. For DK, my main storyline is going to be Showmaker trying again after getting to Worlds for the 6th consecutive time to get a title. Was obviously really close way back in 2021. And Lucid, I think, is one of my favorite players in a long time that we've seen debut within the LCK. I think his spring was pretty lackluster, but coming into summer, I think he has really leveled up. And I'm also hoping that the meta will suit him a little bit better. I think that if we get to see this guy in things like Lee, Viego, it's going to really put DK in a position where I think they can look good. That said, I'm sure you guys will watch the series. They can also look like a bunch of chickens just running around the Rift. I do think this is the type of team where if everything aligns, they look incredible, but they can also lose to like a low-tier LPL team, or even, you know, against G2, and I don't think it should come as a surprise for anyone. For T1, I'm not going to mention too much because I assume everyone's familiar. They've looked quite bad. I think Faker is in the worst shape of his recent career. Like, I don't know what the last time would be that he's individually been this week. And really only Zeus, and that's more recently, Owner, I think, was kind of the stalwart defender, but he's really struggled in playoffs. Guma have been consistent. I think both Keria and Zeus pre-playoffs And then Faker just for really the entirety of summer, which is crazy because his spring was really good. Like spring he was contesting rather for second best mid laner in the league, whereas now he is not that. Expectation is always going to be at least 3 out of 4 teams making it out. Anything less than that would really, I think, be seen as a huge disappointment. It's very important not to lose to any non-TL slash G2 team. I do know that obviously Flycast are the number 1 seed from an A, but I think Flycast will still be seen very differently by the Korean teams themselves, right? I do think the LCK is going to have a great time. I think that the region is quite top heavy, but after the last couple of years, I think we've seen many times that as World rolls around, LCK is going to be able to step it up. And for individual players to watch again, Lucid, I think, is my number 1 player that I want to tell everyone to look at how great he's going to be. And then it'd be Chovy, which kind of a no-brainer for Gen G. But I do think that this is kind of his final opportunity to really once and for all shut people up. Because if this team can't win Worlds, then I don't think you're ever going to get rid of the... which I don't agree with if you look at individual performance, but obviously a lot of people are very big believers in the choke narrative, which, you know, if you look at 2023 MSI, for example, I think did happen. And then for Hanwha, it would probably be the Light because he's Bro Talent and he is the best and we love him. For I don't know, for T1, do I really need to tell you? It'd be Zayas. I love this kid. I think he's been incredible. So thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure. I hope we collectively can enjoy some top quality League of Legends. Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching this final episode of the series Major Region Rundown. I hope you've just learned a little bit more about these teams heading into the World Championship. And yeah, like I said, we'll be co-streaming all the games, and if you're not there live, I'll be uploading a lot of the content to YouTube anyway. So yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
No.